Hello, everyone, and welcome to Title 24, first episode presented by NBC Sports. I'm Ricky Carmichael alongside one of the best to ever do it, Ryan Villopoto, and we got some special stuff happening with you guys all through Super Motocross series each week. Going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to do this. Ryan, how about yourself?
I'm stoked, man. We put this together really quick with the help of you guys, JH, Aaron, everybody at NBC. So I'm really stoked to, have our own podcast. It's been something I've talked about for a while, and JH rang me up a couple weeks ago, and we made this thing happen really quick.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, everyone tuning into the show will enjoy it. The significance of the 2-4, if anyone is wondering about that, is between Ryan and I, we have 24 major national championships, and so that's where the 2 and the 4 came from. So it's ironic when we were putting this thing together, Ryan. I'm like, oh wow, this is crazy. So. For all you guys wondering the significance, that's what it's about. But before we get going, we got some great partners involved. The first is United Motorsports. They got 6 locations across Ohio and Kentucky. Some great people running that company. Some personal friends of mine also. So we're happy that they're a part of it. Keep an eye out for them. They're going to launch their online store, which I think will be massive. Second, Quad Lock, the leader in phone cases and mounts. They got it all for all your needs, off-road needs, whether it's bicycles, motorcycles, boats, side-by-sides, cars. My favorite is they got like a little phone charging deck. Love that. You can just throw your phone on the counter and it charges while you're going. And then last but not least, Foxo USA, incredible tool company. For whatever you need as far as tools go, they got you dialed. Quality, lifetime guarantees. So nevertheless, this wouldn't be possible without them. So happy that they're along for the ride, and we got some fun giveaways and things that we're going to be doing along the way as well. But I think let's just get right into it. And Ryan, I think the biggest thing, the news, and I didn't think this was going to happen. Want to hear what you got to say, is the news about Eli Tomac coming out saying he's going to race Pro Motocross Championship, and then the SMX playoff rounds for the inaugural SMX World Championship series and the title. What are your thoughts? Did you anticipate that?
I did not anticipate that. Nobody really knows what Eli's got running through his head right now. But from a fan's perspective, from the racing, to have Eli sign back up to do the Pro Motocross series and then finish off with SMX is huge. I think you've done it, I've done it, retired, and it leaves the fans kind of hanging. So I'm stoked to be able to watch and have him come back out and continue his racing at the top of where he's at right now. These guys are gunning for him. Cooper, Sexton, Jason, all those top guys, but it's really good to see him continue on with his racing and see where this goes. Cause I think we're not done with watching some great racing throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, I wonder, I personally wasn't anticipating that to happen. I thought he was just going to ride off into the sunset. I mean, you know better than anyone, just like the mental aspect of it. And just when you're a champion, multi-time champion like him, the grind that it has on you mentally, I didn't think he was going to keep going. I really didn't. To your point, selfishly, I'm pumped because, I love watching him each and every weekend. I think he brings a lot to the sport, even our younger demographic. He's just he's a great ambassador.
Real household name. And I think ultimately, Star Racing has done a great job with keeping him happy. Clearly, if he's winning races, he's on a great machine, but ultimately he has to be happy and want to keep racing, right? So I think they've done a great job with keeping him, enticed, if that's the word, or keeping him involved. So I'm stoked to see him to keep racing and like I said, sign up for Pro Motocross and SMX. So I'm really, really, I think everybody should be pumped.
Yeah, for sure. That was great. Arlington, Triple Crown, freaking the Triple Crown is always bringing the action, in my opinion. I love them. I know the riders don't like it. I understand why they don't like it from a perspective of getting on the gate a couple more times and, being exposed to the first corner. But damn, I mean, it puts on a really good show. And do you like the Triple? I don't even know. Did you even race the Triple Crown?
The Triple Crown would be Monster Cup, if you call it that. The 3 gate drops. But ultimately, yeah, as a racer, it definitely is tough. But I hate to tell everybody this, but that could be the new thing in the future, the Triple Crown. As we were just talking before the show started, that, man, it's action-packed, for I think it was around 48 laps total that the riders did in the 450 class.
Yep.
So it's an action-packed night, lots of racing, 3 gate drops. There's not a lull in a Triple Crown event, So from an ex-racer standpoint, from my standpoint, I'm stoked to watch it. It's definitely action-packed. I get what they're going through with the pressure of 3 gate drops and all that, but ultimately it makes great TV, and great TV is happy fans.
So we talk about, break it down like 250. Dude, I wasn't expecting Thrasher to come out and do as well as he did, especially with the knee injury. And, not that I don't believe in him, but I mean, I go back to the first race of the night, and dude, he was giving Hunter Lawrence all the pressure that I would have wanted to have from anyone. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do agree. Thrasher was on the gas at Dallas, and he put himself in great positions all 3 gate drops, and Hunter labored a little bit off, in one of the races. Remember, like I said, there's 3 gate drops. So one of those, he had to kind of come through the pack a little bit, and Thrasher put himself in great positions all 3 of those motos. So I think that he's coming on strong. We do know he's got a knee injury. I've dealt with that, Ricky. You've dealt with that,
Yeah.
So those things can just pop up in the middle of a race and cause havoc. But as of right now, he's managing his torn ACL very well. And to be honest, it doesn't look like there's anything, wrong with him. And, that's good to see. It's good to see someone able to push through and ride with an injury like that. And still put it up on the box and, win races and contend to win races and push for that championship.
That'd be a hell of a feat if he's able to go the distance, right? And challenge.
It would be. It would be. It's going to be tough. Hunter's riding really well. The consistency. I feel like this year, last year we've had, Hunter rode really well. Definitely made some mistakes, here and there. But this year seems like he's managing those mistakes very well. And it kind of seems like he's a different rider when it mentally out there on the track. Like, he's not getting as excited, I don't think. In the past, we've seen, Hunter have some amazing races and win some awesome races out there, Supercross races and outdoors. But we've always had little kind of mistakes. I've always looked at Jet as being the more consistent one, but now Hunter's is working on that. And now between the two of them, they're probably the most 2 consistent riders out there, let alone brothers.
Yeah. It's fun to see that. It's fun to see them guys like be challenged, so I just go back to trying to race without an ACL. I mean, I was going to try to in 2004, and hell, I didn't even make the series. I think one thing, and we can close it out on the 250, but it's going to be interesting to see how Haiden Deegan responds. I feel like this is the first weekend that he was kind of put to the test, because he's done really well. I mean, we've talked about it before, but I always like to see how these guys respond. I'm like, okay, now you've finally gotten a taste, and what's your expectations?
Well, how does he respond to, a mishap like that? But also, we're getting a little bit later in the season for Haiden. It's week in and week out, even though it's 7 or 8 races for those guys. But as a rookie, taking in that all that pressure every single weekend. You fly back on Sunday, you get back on the track on Monday, and that stuff all starts compounding. So this is where you really see, his training, his preparation, the longevity that he'll be able to sustain what he's doing. So what the rebound is going to be the kicker part right now is how he can come back from those mistakes that he had this last weekend and put it back up front. So I know we have Daytona coming up this weekend, so that'll be a new track for him. So there's a lot of learning to do for Haiden too, but I think he's done a phenomenal job up thus far. And I think that the preparation that Stars put into these kids, I think that he will be able to rebound. I don't think that one mishap on a weekend is going to, put Haiden down.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I totally think he's mentally strong, like strong enough to be like, okay, whatever. I screwed up the first race of the Triple Crown, but he did good the last two. So kind of to your point, yeah, he did respond, as far as the night goes, now that I sit here and think about it. But moving on to the 450, man, if you're a betting man, who the hell do you bet for? Like I see all these.
I don't know, man. It's close.
Like these fantasies, right? It's like, who do you pick? There you go. There's the points. Honestly, I haven't seen it this tight in a really long time. I feel so, and this is where I want your expertise. Like I said this on the broadcast, I feel like all of these riders are right on the brink, and you know how it is. Like, man, if you would have just went one or two more laps, you would have broke me, right? So I feel like that's where these guys are at, whether you're Cooper Webb trying to wear down Eli Tomac or Sexton trying to wear down Eli Tomac. Like, do you feel like, who do you give the advantage to? And do you feel like they're at that moment where it's a game, it's between the ears?
Yeah, good question. I think obviously we know, kind of Eli had a mishap there in Dallas. Nothing major, but just a little mistake off the tunnel jump there. Was able to gather it back up, get back out there. But yeah, right here, it just lands. Seems like the front starts to push, then the rear tire slides out behind him. Just a quick mistake, was able to get back up. But to be honest, I was thinking about these top three riders, Chase, Eli, and Cooper. And Chase is, in my opinion, kind of in this limbo position. And what I mean by that is Eli's established that he's the guy to beat. And now we see Coop kind of coming up, and he's the dark horse in this. I think Eli and Chase better have eyes in the back of their head because, Coop's coming on strong. I know we're going into Daytona this weekend, like I said before. That's Eli's place. He's phenomenal there. The odds of somebody beating him there, probably slim to none, in my opinion. But as we know, Coop keeps coming on, and that's kind of what he's notorious for late in the season is to keep pushing. And pretty soon, right now, if we look, there's only a 2-point spread, and he's kind of, don't want to say he's come out of nowhere, but he wasn't the one to talk about early. It was Chase and Eli, and now Coop is right there. So these guys better grow eyes in the back of their head, because if not, they might get caught off guard by Coop.
Wow, so you give Eli just a slight advantage.
I give Eli the slight advantage right now because in my opinion, like I said, this is the best start to any season that he's had in Supercross. And you mentioned on the broadcast how ballsy it was for him to start on the outside gate like that, or more outside compared to everybody else.
Right.
Outside the box.
Dude, there is no way, dude. Would you have done that?
We would have caught you out there? There's no way we would have caught you out there.
No. Would you have, though?
When you said that, I was trying to think about what am I going to say to this? And the only thing that I could come up with is, hey, he's starting around guys that aren't as good as him, and the bike's not as good as his. So if he can get that reaction time, and even if it's close, himself, the way he lays the power down, the bike lays the power down, he should be able to get a bar on everybody and then start moving left. And literally that's what he did every start. And for him, he got three gate drops. Out of 3 gate drops, he got 3 damn good starts, which is not something we normally see. Normally we botch one of them in a 3 race, or 3 gate drop race.
Right.
So it was very interesting to see. put himself in a great position, being able to come starting outside there. He was able to roll around that turn and then get that rhythm section right out of the first turn, which gave him a little breathing room into that left-hand turn, in turn 2. So it all worked out for him, but risky move going outside like that on the gate.
Yeah, dude, you ain't seeing me out there. There is no shot. I understand what you're saying, and you bring up a great point about, not to say the dudes on the inside of the dudes he were around were scrubs by any stretch of the imagination, but like, I guess, you'd rather start next to some, not your main competitor. But dude, that is just,
it's a risky move. It was a real ballsy move, and he was able to pull it off and put himself in great positions. All three of those.
You talked about there was no defense tactics right there. But to your point, like that's just confidence. And
I was gonna say, it shows you the confidence that he's able to say, you know what, I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna go outside here. If I can get the jump, I can roll through that first turn and get that first rhythm section. So maybe that was his thought process. Eli and his dad.
So I'm sitting here like, what does it take for the pendulum to swing, at least for you, to give, say, a guy like Cooper the edge, like how you're giving Eli the edge? Like, what do you have to see in order for you to be like, okay, not Cooper's the guy now?
Honestly, I think it's going to take Coop 2 or 3 race wins like in a row, like to get that fire really lit underneath of him. Not that it's not lit. We just watched him win the Triple Crown, in Dallas. Now we're, like I said, I keep bringing up Daytona. Daytona's coming up. The odds of him beating Eli there, I'm going to go with slim to none. If Eli rides a good race, that being said, if he rides a good race, gets a good start, puts himself in a great position, the odds of beating him are going to be very hard. So I think after Daytona, that's where Coop's got to look at trying to put himself in a position, string off a couple wins, and get that pendulum to swing. I don't think it has anything to do with him, motorcycle, mentally. We know he's physically strong. We know he's mentally strong. He's one of the most mentally strong guys out there. But really, that pendulum's just got to swing, and I think it's going to come with some race wins, consecutive race wins for him. And then that'll start playing into Eli's head a little bit too. Like, okay, I got to get back up on this. I got to get on the horse, and I got to stop him from gaining any more momentum.
Right. Well, same old thing with Sexton, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, dude. But he lays it down in that rut. Like, tell me what Ryan Villopoto's thinking right here if you're behind Eli. Like,
I mean, is it just a light bulb comes on and it's like it happens again? It's just like it seems to always just the little mistakes. Chase came into that turn. That turn previously race had a nice inside deep rut. They brought the skiddies out to prep some of the track, push that rut in. And honestly, I watched it, listened to the broadcast, really just push the tire too far for what it was leaned over that much with the rut only being, about this shallow from looks of it on TV, like that's something that you, as a rider, you have to be able to, you have to know that you can only ask so much out of these tires at the speeds they're going, and that far leaned over coming into the turn, and was able to just come in there and just push the front wheel, and such a bummer because he was in a great position right here. We're going to watch it again, right? Boom, just goes down, loses the front. That rut wasn't even really established yet. And look how far he's leaned over, thinking he's going to grab something there. There really was nothing there to grab. So he would have had to tiptoe around that turn, to make it through safely. But he just came in like there was a big old rut to get into and bank off of, and there was nothing there.
Hey, Futures was good. I mean, not really a surprise. I mean, when you consider Daxton Bennick, who he rides with all the time. But the gnarly thing to me is the confidence that Bennick has in himself and in his riding. Like, I think he had a legit deal from KTM, right? Like a long time commitment. And he walked away from that to be on what is probably known as the best 250 program in the paddock for sure for several years now, and basically betting on himself with no deal from what I understand, and he's been laying it down in the futures.
Yeah, he's been riding really well. You take these young kids and you put them in amongst a full-blown race team with guys that are, racing for championships. Only thing they can do is go up, to be honest. Manage the injuries during the week, things like that. You got to be smart during the week. That's their biggest probably hurdle in being at their age and being in the position they're in, is they're trying to show everybody how fast they are. And get that position and show everybody that they're here to stay during the week and on the weekends. So it's like we've talked about this before, the futures being a great platform for these young kids to be able to get into a stadium, ride a real Supercross in front of real fans. And Dax has done a phenomenal job. Deegan was able to go through there, race a few of those, so I think it's a great platform. But betting on himself, you can't beat a betting man that's betting on himself, and he's putting in the work and knows that he hasn't left any stones unturned.
Yeah.
So Dax is putting himself in a great position.
You think it because of his situation, and as far as I know, he doesn't have a signed deal. Why wouldn't a guy like Mitch scoop him up?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's obviously we're not on that other side. It's the team owner side. I know you've owned a team before, but I've never been in that position. And, I'm sure there's a lot of red tape and a lot of politics involved with all of that. But honestly, I don't know. There's some guys out there that I'd be like, why don't you give this guy a shot or give this guy a shot, Right. So, but I guess I'm not in that team position. I'm sitting here, doing our podcast. So we'll speculate and, try to solve the world's problems, why these guys are in the position they're in.
Hey, I never asked you this I'm surprised over some cocktails. We haven't talked about it, but do you think it'd be cool if they there was some sort of trade agreement in Supercross and motocross amongst teams?
I think that would be something very interesting to see if you could get to implement into our sport. Because there's always guys that aren't happy with their team or are not happy with their motorcycle, and vice versa, that would switch. And the guys that are pumped, like Eli, let's say he's going to stay where he's at. So I do think that could be something very interesting, like a trade agreement like that, to see if it could ever work. I mean, we could sit here and speculate all we want. I think looking at it would be, if I was in that position and I wasn't pumped on my team or my motorcycle, having the opportunity to switch, whenever that time would be, could be something cool to experiment with. But obviously, as you know, switching teams, switching bikes, new team have to learn you have to learn the team. There's a lot there. So it would be a very risky move moving mid-season. But some people, it might work into their favor.
Well, I just think from a team owner's perspective, and I'm sure that there's certain circumstances where the rider would get hosed, but at least from a team perspective, the team principals, they know what is at stake, so they're happy making that gamble on that trade agreement. So that's why I think that it would work, because one team's not going to trade with the other if they're not stoked or they're not willing to take the gamble. So I don't know. I just have always thought, I'm like, dude, it'd be so epic if there was a trade, some kind of trading agreement.
Yeah, I think it would be really, really cool, and it would spice things up tremendously.
Dude, yeah. Could you imagine though, racing for Cowie one weekend and then, dude, you're at KTM the next? It'd be tough.
It would be tough. There would be a lot to learn and have to learn very quickly and put yourself in that position. And think about it. A weekend off. Hey, the trade agreement happens. We're switching over. You're going to get your ass on a plane, fly to California or wherever the team's based. And you got to learn a new motorcycle within, 4 or 5 days. Would keep it very interesting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, a couple hot topics, and lappers. So there was a lot of stuff happening in that last race, especially the 450, right? Chiz goes down.
Caught that tough block at the end of the race.
And then you had Grant Harlan, here's a replay. give me your analysis on this. Like, you tell me what you see here and what you think should have happened in a perfect
Well,
scenario.
I just, yeah, you see Chiz catch the tough blocks, blow into the track. The lapper was there for Chase to make a decision. I just feel like I would have put myself and went up the inside gate. And so right here, pull up the inside more, but he followed him over to the right, which it's not anybody's real fault. He was trying to get out of the way, but they both went to the right. I think I would have tried to come up the inside, go towards mechanics area a little bit more, open that area all up so you can make a decision if you're going to go inside or outside, give yourself some more room, where they both had moved out to the outside. And I know Chase was trying to go around him, but that was just the easiest part to pull off the track for that lapper right there. So tough situation to be in. You can't always read the lappers right. But that was a key point of the race there. Cooper was able to capitalize on that massively. Probably was coming sooner or later.
You think he gets by him though? Like if he doesn't if you think he's able to reel him in? And I mean, he was reeling him in.
Honestly, Ricky, I think he was going to be able to get around him. I think he had, at that point, if the lapper wouldn't have gotten away and Chiz just would have went down, it sucked them up so quick, so close there that Chase would have been put into a situation that I don't know if he would have been on the defensive so hard. Coop would have been able to make a move on him. I do think Coop could have made a move on him.
Look right here. Like, watch that. Do you ever get the sense like Chase is looking like straight down at his front wheel? Did you see that? Like it doesn't look like, I'm thinking what you said. And I didn't even think of this till you just said that. Yeah. Like he's coming out of that corner. Yeah. He should have just, I mean, here we are, Tuesday morning quarterbacking it, but
yeah. I feel like I would have done a brake slide. I feel like, you or if put any of us in that situation, not talking down on Chase, but I think I would have come up the inside, slid it around, went towards mechanics area. Like I said, open that whole straightaway up instead of bottlenecking it up into the inside. That way he would have had more real estate to make a decision with. He kind of boxed himself in that inside. And then all of a sudden here's Coop that just even goes even further inside and runs him outside in the next right-hander. So definitely a tough spot to be in. You can't, like I said, you can't read the lappers always correctly.
Yeah.
But you definitely got to do a better job at that, especially when you get into those tracks that are tight. That infield of that track was super tight there. So you gotta be focused on what those guys are going to do and try to put yourself in the best position.
Right. You gotta predict. I feel bad for Harlan just because he's probably getting just absolutely annihilated because there's one part where I don't know if it's the rule, but I think at the riders meeting, sometimes they've said, and this, like, hey, if you're getting lapped, just hold your line.
Hold your line. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's probably getting ruined for not holding his line, although he was just trying to get out of the way. I feel bad for the guy.
No, for sure. It's a tough position to be in as in Harlan's position as a lapper, because he's out there trying to do the best he can do and put his bike and his team up in the best position they can be in. So he's out there for the same reason Chase is out there, just in a different position.
I can't believe how far they lapped up to in a short amount of time. That to me blew my mind. I'm like, because I was thinking a couple things. The track was relatively fast, and I thought that the times were so close. So I'm like, oh, cool. There won't be as many lappers for that reason. And then, of course, there won't be as many lappers because the race is shorter, not as long, So, I mean, they lapped up. I had to have been like 10th place, I would say.
Yeah, somewhere around that. Yeah, lappers definitely played a huge part. And at the speeds these guys are going, Eli, Chase, Anderson, Kenny, all those top guys, Cooper, like they're closing in on those guys really fast, and fitness plays a big role in that. Like you said, a 10-minute main event, they shouldn't have, I shouldn't use the word shouldn't have, but you wouldn't think they would lap up that far. But obviously, as we've raced Dallas a lot, that track is technical. It's a bit slippery. You know, you get a lot of feedback through the motorcycle, and you know, in my opinion, at Dallas, it's definitely was one of the harder tracks for me to race. So maybe that's what you were seeing. Like those guys are just on such another. The top guys are on such different levels, and they were able to suck those guys up before the race was over. And I mean, they were into lappers right away. And not to mention, you're adding, you know, what we talked about, 48 total laps. You know, normally they're doing around 25 laps in a 20-minute, you know, session. Mm-hmm. So, you know, definitely fitness had to play a role for some of that. And as those get into Moto 2, Moto 3, you know, those guys that aren't as fit, you know, they start dragging the anchor a lot quicker.
Right. And last topic for the weekend, and you and I talked about a little bit while we were prepping for the show on Sunday, the whoops. So
we got that group. Yeah, we got that group text going, you know, and we've been talking about it, you know, like, and I was like, man, they're trying to blitz through the rut, which in my opinion, for me personally, was the hardest thing to do. I'd always look for, even if it was a cupped out section that just didn't have a rut in it, at least I know I'm hitting things square and my tires aren't going to start wandering back and forth. Yeah, really interesting topic we're going to get onto right now with the whoops. I see a lot of guys going for the easy section, which is down the rut, but then like Jason right here catching the second to last one wrong and almost off the track. So, I mean, what do you think about the rut? I dislike.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, so when I see dudes, or like if I would try to blitz through a rut, yeah, for sure I would go sideways. If anyone wants to relive the past, go to Indianapolis 2002. I tried that and had the save of my life. So that one's always a good one. You definitely, to your point, when there's a rut, they get V'd out, as you know, and then you have to jump through them. So that's my opinion. But so here's my deal on the whoops. They've been a hot topic the last couple of weeks, as you know, and I think they're chunking up a lot more than they ever have. I personally think some of it is because of the torque of the 450, and they just chew up so much. They're getting steeper. I wish that the whoops were more round, and I wish that they were a little smaller, because I feel like at that stage you can race through them, or if you it's not do or die. I hate whoop competition, right? I feel like when they get too big, it's just basically it's too much of a separator, and then it's, you know, it's a whoop competition. It's not a race. I like to have whoops where they can race through them. And so when I was racing, and even today, like, listen, I don't have a dog in the fight. I just, from a total racing perspective, I like when they're how they were this weekend. Let's get your take. If you had to build a perfect whoop pad,
you know, I do agree with some of what you said there. Like, you know, having the whoops a little more easier is not the word, but a little more consistency with the way they build them. Like you said, round, you know, because we'll show up to some of these races and you'll have some that are, you know, nice and round, like you were talking about, that are a little bit farther apart. And then you'll have some that are super steep, that are close together. So, which, to be honest, I actually like having the different styles of whoops. You know, some are that a little steeper, that are close together, some that are more round, that are farther apart. It's another element. It's another obstacle of the course. And as we both have raced James in the past, and probably one of the best guys in the whoops, you know, 9 times out of 10, almost every weekend, right?
Until
it goes south. Yeah. But I think that I personally like having the different styles of whoops, because that is a separator, and it makes dudes have to figure out what they're going to do midway through the race. And like you said, they are chunking up more. They are getting more rutted. The cups on the faces of them are getting bigger because we're doing more laps. You know, we're based on time now. We're not based on laps. So, you know, around main event time, 20 minutes roughly runs out about 25 laps, depending on the lap time. So we're getting 5 more laps on those, on that track. So, I think that's the big deciding factor in why are the whoops the way they are, is just more time on them. I think they get more laps during heat races because of time. They get more laps during the main event. And ultimately, I think it's a separator. And I do like having the whoops built differently and not having them show up every weekend and be like, okay, well, they're the same. Well, we show up every weekend and we have some weekends we have a 72-foot triple, and some weekends it'll be an 80-foot triple, or the rhythm sections are very similar, but they've changed the distances of, how far you're jumping. So I like them. I like that they're changing it up. I do think that there's certain races they need to build them like you're talking about. For instance, like a triple or a futures race where we have 22 pro-am guys that are coming in to ride their first Supercross track, and all of a sudden they show up and they have this massive set of whoops that they struggle to get through. So I think that would be the one of the weekends where I would say, hey, let's build them fairly basic, that these won't be a deciding factor.
Oh, dude, I don't know, man. It blows my mind. Like, I'm just trying to think of different whoops, like how you're saying, like you liked different style whoops. One weekend steeper, closer together. One weekend bigger, rounder. Like, to me, man, I always liked them as close to the same as possible. I don't know. Yeah, I guess to each his own. That's where you and I differ from that. So you want them to build them that way this year? Like just from a fan's perspective, you'd rather see them different every single weekend?
I think so, yeah. Or not every single weekend, but throw, like, we have some sand sections in this weekend or next weekend or vice versa, like having a set of whoops, like, hey, these are a different set of whoops. Or, hey, riders meeting, we always do track walk and then a riders meeting. It's like, hey, sometimes they'll let us know in the past, like, hey, that triple is not 75 feet. It is an 80-footer. They'll let us know, right? So you kind of know going into it. It changes up, I think, as you're walking through the track, you're not also worried about, hey, what combination is going to be in this rhythm section here? It's like, man, how are we going to, how are these whoops going to develop? Are they going to end up being jumpers? Do we have to think about that? Personally, I was a terrible whoop. Could never jump whoops, ever. And I like looking back, it's something, it's another art to be able to jump a set of whoops, not only blitz a set, so having those different sets built, different styles built, I should say, promote, okay, well, one weekend might be a jumper, one week it's going to be a blitz, so it's not always the same. And I like the difference that they bring to the table when they build them a little bit different.
Good stuff. You moving on to Daytona, little preview action. I know we talked about the big three.
One of the biggest races of the year
at the beginning. Yeah. Like what's the mindset,
So I think we should get into Ricky. I think we should get into talking about, me, you, pretty much anybody in this industry considers Daytona as the midway, right? The mid, it's like halfway. This is like, now we're really going to see. Why do we use that term? I guess, everybody hears it, but I don't know if it's ever been, what was your thought process about Daytona? Why is this halfway when it's technically actually not halfway? It's very close to half.
Because I think, like, for me, and I think that we're similar in this regard, is I just feel like towards like this point on in Daytona, if you can set the tempo for the last half of the season, I feel like that's where guys up until now, they think that they have a shot at the championship. And if you don't have a relatively good finish at Daytona, things start to sink in and like, okay, crap, I've run out of time. It's going to take a miracle at this point, unless you are in this year's situation where you got Eli and Coop within 5 points. Okay. That's why I think, guys like yourself, me, like MC back in the day, and where we're at now is because we know, like, okay, these three guys are going to go the distance, and the other guys behind them, it's going to take a miracle. So that's why I think that. And I feel like the true title contenders they rise to the top of the latter part of the season. That's why I think.
I agree with that. Daytona, as everybody knows, is not a traditional Supercross track. It's probably one of my favorite races as when I was racing. Like there's a lot of unknowns coming into Daytona, just because of the track, open stadium. Like we've raced that race in 6 foot of water that one year, and some of those holes it was 4 foot of water, and 4 foot of water in some of those holes. There's a lot of factors that can come into Daytona, but like you said, like I really feel that these guys, like you said, have a chance. And after Daytona, they're like, depending on what that finish is or how they felt, like I feel like that is where make or breaks those dudes. But we're, like you said, we are in a different position because the top 3 have like 5 points separating them right now. So, I mean, there's years I've come into Daytona with, say a 15-point lead or a 12-point lead, and then I win that one. And that's kind of like the nail in the coffin. When you leave there, they're like, okay, we have only 6 or 7 races to try to bridge this gap, which, as we know, is not a lot of racing to bridge that gap. And it puts them in a, I guess, a dire straight position when they leave there if they're not standing on top of the box. But like I said, it's a little bit different this year because we're so close in points coming in here. But I do think ultimately, like I said this before, these guys are going to have to ride one hell of a race to beat Eli there. If Eli has a good gate drop and rides the way we all know he can ride, and we've seen him ride at Daytona, it's going to be an uphill battle for these guys.
Although I know, like you're saying, Eli has the advantage, right? But
Yep.
Dude, you go back to last year, Cooper Webb was pretty damn good there. Like, and I feel he's better this year than he was last year.
I agree with that.
Like, dude, he almost won the damn thing. What, McElrath got in his way, like with 2 laps to go, maybe 3.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was close, so how good that. I mean,
yep.
Coop's pretty good defensively. Like, it's gonna be hard to get by him, right?
Yeah, no, he definitely rides a good defensive game. Coop does. So I'd love to see 2 great starts from Eli and Coop and Chase, and have an epic race at Daytona, just because it's a lot longer lap time. Normally we're up in the 130s at Daytona. The track deteriorates really quick. There's so many things that play a factor. As you know, the lighting's great, but the dirt is so dark.
Yep.
There's so many factors into Daytona. And I think that's why it's such a prestigious race to win also. And when you leave there, you're like, I just won, Daytona, Supercross. So it's a big one coming up this weekend.
Well, going to Daytona, I think it's that time we take a little view of the track map, very similar to last year. I love this start. RV comes into a pretty good radius, not super, super tight. Obviously, inside is going to be the key, but then a gnarly rhythm section right here.
Yeah, very technical. Just what's that, about a 90-degree turn coming into a gnarly rhythm section, into a triple onto a tabletop. Yeah. Very, and guys, these tracks are going to break down. Like I said, the lighting is good, but with this dark dirt, then going to the white sand. Here's a very technical section.
I love that.
Always brings in that sugar sand, and it seems like you never can survive it.
Yeah, beach sand right here. And it gets pretty tight right here. Everyone keep your eye out. Inside, outside. This was a key part right here, this moment. That tight 180. Then they come up underneath the tunnel. Pretty self-explanatory section right here. Hard to do much there as far as because of the footing constraints that we have. And then a Supercross section, Supercross whoops, Ryan.
Yeah, like I love to see a Dragon's back. Daytona, like I just mentioned, breaks down. And what's interesting about Daytona, was always fun to race, is you might have a bitchin' line on the inside of one of these turns, but 3 laps later, the outside is now a good line. So definitely these riders need to be on the lookout for developing lines. I feel like that's something that I was really good at, just trying lines on the track where you'd have a guy like Dunge that would just hit his marks every single time. Good or bad rut, he made it fast, where I was like, well, that one's too deep, or that one's too rough. I'm going to try over here. That's something I think Daytona promotes, different lines, great passing, a lot of one-line sections too, but putting yourself in a position to follow through the one-line sections. And then when the track opens up and you're faster or have a different line, you're able to capitalize on and strike and make that pass quick. So it always promotes great racing at Daytona.
Yeah, and certainly, if this track, very similar to last year. Last year was epic racing, especially with that split lane right there before the finish. I mean, it'd be awesome if it came down to the last lap before the checkered flag, and the split lane was the determining factor of who wins the Daytona Supercross. It'd be a lot of fun to see. But to your point, you hit some great points that I didn't even think about. It just kind of comes natural. Yeah, that track is always changing, and they're going to have their hands full. Hey, and then last on Daytona, a couple things. So 250. I think people better watch out for J-Mart, bro.
The dark horse,
dude. I'm telling you, right?
Yeah, he actually right here we're watching him. He crosses the finish line here, and he didn't even know that he had won this. So as we know, J-Mart has he's rode really well at Daytona in the past. Stepped up and rode the 450 class a couple years ago for Honda and finished, I think, second or third. That was his first time on a 450 out at Daytona. I think racing at 450 in general was I think it was Factory Connection at the time. So definitely a dark horse here in the lights class for Jeremy Martin. We all know that he's kind of more of an outdoor specialist than a Supercross. So if we can see some good things from him, he might put on a late charge in this season here and make up some crucial points.
Yeah, I think, dude, everyone, dude, if you're a bet man, like I'm not a betting man, but everybody better keep their eye on him. That's all I'm saying. So I got to give you some mad props here. I'm looking at our man, Clinton Fowler from Fowler's Facts, our statistician coming in. So you have 4 wins out of 6 starts. Your win percentage is 67%. That's pretty insane, dude. I mean, Eli's got 67%. You guys smoked me and Stanton. Stanton's got 50%. That's his win percentages. I'm at 63.
63. Yeah, I got yours highlighted right here. 5 wins, 8 starts, 63 win percentage.
Dude, I think you are. Your win percentage in Supercross is the best. I think too, the highest. I think.
It's.
You were in and out, dude. You went there.
I was in and out.
Won titles.
It's interesting to.
Yeah, you did your stuff.
Yeah, got in, got out. It's my kid Brax, one of my boys, was like, "Hey, dude, I want to watch something with you." Not that he said I'm tired of watching Supercross, the current guys, but let's see something with you. I was like, "Okay, get on YouTube, pull up the old archives because that's the only place you're going to see me." And I actually pulled up. Somebody made a 25-minute long video of race wins, and going back to that, looking at win percentages and things like that. I guess I've never looked into it that much. And then you're like, holy cow, like, man, I won a lot. And then I think one of the outdoor seasons, it said that I'd won 18 races out of 24, which I had no idea. Honestly, I didn't know I won that many in one season. So, that was kind of cool to see, bring the boys up, see that, get them to see that. But yeah, these guys are, 67% here, 63 for you, Ricky. Eli's 67, he's got 6 wins in 9 starts at Daytona. So we got a race on our hands here.
We do. Hey, speaking of Daytona, be sure to watch it this weekend exclusively on Peacock. Race Day Live starts at 1:30 p.m. I always like Race Day Live also, kind of get you amped up. You can see who's doing what, how guys are feeling. Keep in mind, though, Daytona is going to, as you know, RV, it's going to change nonstop. But so once RDL is over, like I said, switch over to Peacock. Should be really good. And we'll see what happens. But also, while I'm getting some mentions in, starting this week, I think that our listeners and watchers will like this. Starting this week, leave a question on our Title 24 Instagram page. We'll choose one next week to receive a free quad lock case. All of our partners, we're going to do giveaways each week, which is really fun through our Instagram. And submit your questions, whether they're negative, positive. We want you to be open and transparent. We'll give you the feedback. Thanks everyone for listening, watching. Thanks to our partners, United Motorsports, for coming on board. Boxo USA, Quad Lock, some great companies. Check them out on the interwebs. Title 24 is off and running. It's been great, hasn't it, RV? Pretty fun.
No, I'm stoked. It's fun to be on here with you, RC, and try to, give our best, analyze the best we can, and also keep it fun and also a little controversial. Nobody wants everybody to agree all the time. And like you said, to submit those questions, and if it's something a little hairy, well, we'll get on there and we'll see if we can break it down for you well enough and keep it entertaining for you guys. So Title 24 is here, and it's here to stay.
Hey, we ain't scared to shut down some keyboard warriors, are we, bud?
No, that's what we do. That's some of the best stuff we do.
Yeah, we're going to be weekly throughout Super Motocross season. Make sure you guys tune in. Be sure to subscribe wherever you download your podcast, or watch it on demand at the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page, NBCSports.com, or Peacock. Don't forget to like the show and leave your comments. We're going to keep drilling that. It gives us content to talk with you guys, our viewers and watchers about. And we're going to do it again next week.